Why did a pious girl who memorized the Quran have to be buried with a washing machine? Astaghfirullah. All women should watch this and understand why this punishment occurred. Today we will share with you the heartbreaking story of a girl that will send shivers down your spine. What mistake did she make that led to her being buried with a washing machine after her death? And why did she have to endure the painful torment of the grave? This girl, who always helped others and supported them in times of need, committed a sin so severe that she faced this fate after death. We request all women to learn a lesson from this story so that we can all avoid making the same mistakes. Let's begin the story. It is said that in a small village called Mirpur, a woman was facing difficult circumstances. She had a pious daughter named Sakina. Since her father had passed away during her childhood, Sakina would help her mother with household chores. Initially, the situation at home was stable, but after her father died of a heart attack, Sakina's mother was left worried about how to support the family. In this difficult situation, Sakina's mother started working as a house cleaner in people's homes. Despite this, she never allowed Sakina to accompany her for work. Instead, she enrolled Sakina in a madrasa, religious school, so she could become a Hafiza, one who memorizes the Quran. Sakina, too, worked hard to fulfill her mother's wishes and attended the madrasa diligently. When Sakina finally completed her memorization of the Quran, she stayed at home since her mother couldn't afford further education for her. Her mother continued working in people's homes, while Sakina remained at home. Their days passed like this until one day Sakina's mother fell ill. She developed a severe cough and fluid accumulated in her lungs. The doctor advised her to rest, leaving Sakina and her mother extremely worried. How would they manage their expenses now? Without work, even 2 meals a day had become a struggle. One day, Sakina spoke to her mother and said, "Mother, if you allow me, I can work in people's homes in your place." Her mother immediately refused, saying, No, how can I let you work in other people's homes? There is no trust in people these days." But Sakina was anxious and tried her best to convince her mother. Eventually, her mother reluctantly agreed. Sakina started wearing a veil, burqa, and began working in people's homes. Her first job was at a mansion where she did all the cleaning. Soon she was offered another job, then 3 or 4 more. When her mother saw that Sakina had taken on so much work, she grew concerned and asked, "Why are you putting so much burden on yourself?" But Sakina assured her mother, saying, "Mother, I only work 2 hours in each house. It's not too much for me, and I earn a good amount of money." When Sakina showed her mother her earnings after a month, her mother was delighted. Days went by like this, and Sakina became a dedicated worker, doing everything from cleaning kitchens to washing clothes. At home, she had never even done basic chores, but now fate had placed her on a path where she had to do all sorts of work without complaint. She even enjoyed washing clothes and took pride in doing it well. Whenever she arrived at her employer's house, she would tell the lady of the house, "Ma'am, I will start with the laundry first." The lady would allow her to do so, and Sakina happily spent 2 hours washing clothes. She would scrub the clothes so thoroughly that they came out sparkling clean. Seeing this, the employer would praise her, saying, "You wash clothes even better than your mother. Even if your mother recovers and resumes work, I want you to continue washing my clothes." Hearing this praise, Sakina felt overjoyed. When Sakina's mother saw that her daughter was happy working at people's homes and that the employers were treating her well, she too felt at ease. Her health was still not good enough for her to return to work, but Sakina would bring home her salary at the end of each month and place it in her mother's hands. Her mother, amazed at the large amount of money, asked, "Sakina, you work in 5 houses, but this salary is much more than expected." Sakina calmly explained, "Mother, I not only clean but also do other small tasks here and there, which makes the employers happy. They give me an extra 300 to 400 rupees as a reward, and that's why I have more money." Hearing this, Sakina's mother felt sad. She thought, "My daughter, who is only 18 years old and had never done household chores before, is now working day and night to earn money." But she also felt proud of Sakina, who seemed content with her work. The story continues with the twist that shook everyone. Despite Sakina's hard work and dedication, something happened after her death that left everyone shocked. Sakina's mother arranged her engagement with her aunt's son. With the money Sakina had saved from her work, she began preparing her dowry. Within a short period, she managed to purchase all the necessary items for her dowry. When the wedding date was set, Sakina made a surprising request to her future husband. She said, "I want to take my mother with me to my in-laws' house as part of my dowry." Her fiancé was shocked upon hearing this and said, "How can your mother live with us? No one takes their mother to their in-laws' house." But Sakina was firm in her stance. She said, "My mother is my world. I can't live without her. I don't want to leave her behind, so she will come with me." Sakina's mother tried to explain to her, "Daughters don't take their mothers to their in-laws' houses. I will not go with you." But Sakina insisted, "I will only marry if you come with me." In the end, Sakina's mother had to give in to her daughter's persistent request. After the wedding, she began living with Sakina and her new husband. Initially, Sakina's husband earned a good living as a driver. He strictly told Sakina, "Now you don't need to work in people's houses anymore. I am here to provide for you. My income is enough to ensure you have 3 meals a day." Sakina, however, argued, "I don't mind working in people's homes. The women there are kind to me and treat me well." But her husband was adamant and forbade her from working outside. Sakina finally agreed, but she added one condition: "I will not do cleaning work, but I will continue to wash clothes for one specific house. The lady there loves the way I wash her clothes." Her husband eventually gave in to her request. Sakina resumed her work at the mansion, washing clothes for the family. The lady of the house admired her work and loved the way she washed clothes. But soon, everything changed. One day, her husband was involved in a serious accident that left him permanently disabled. He could no longer work as a driver. This forced Sakina to resume her previous work routine, taking on cleaning and washing jobs in multiple homes. Her mother, seeing her daughter struggle, said, "Daughter, you stay home. I am better now. I will do the cleaning jobs for you." But Sakina firmly replied, "No, mother. It was different before, but now you cannot go back to cleaning other people's homes." Once again, Sakina started working in several houses, just as she had before. Not long after, Sakina discovered that she was pregnant. Her mother was deeply concerned and advised, "Now that you're expecting, stay home and rest." To ease Sakina's burden, her mother returned to work, taking over some of the cleaning jobs. But at the end of the month, she noticed that her pay was significantly less than what Sakina used to earn. Shocked, she wondered, "I did the same amount of work that Sakina used to do. Why is my salary so much less?" The following month, Sakina made a bold decision. "No, I will continue working even in this condition. I can't leave it all on my mother." Despite being pregnant, she went back to work. A few months later, Sakina gave birth to a baby. While Sakina went to work, her mother took care of the baby at home. Every evening, Sakina returned home exhausted. Her mother would watch her in amazement and think, "My daughter works so hard. May Allah bless her with a better life so she doesn't have to continue doing such work." But it seemed that her mother's prayers went unanswered. One day, a small child from the neighborhood came running into Sakina's house shouting, "Something terrible has happened to Sakina." Sakina's mother and husband were stunned. "What happened to Sakina?" they asked in shock. The child delivered the heartbreaking news: "Sakina has passed away." Hearing this, Sakina's mother collapsed unconscious on the spot. Her husband, too, was overcome with grief. "This can't be true," he said in disbelief. When Sakina's mother regained consciousness, she saw a large crowd gathered in her house. Desperately, she cried out, "Where is my daughter's body? Why haven't you brought her home? Bring my daughter to me." The crowd grew silent. Everyone exchanged glances, unsure of how to break the news to Sakina's heartbroken mother. Some people muttered, "Astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive us," unable to say anything more. No one dared to tell her the full truth about what had happened to her daughter. Just then, the owner of the house where Sakina had died arrived. Without wasting any time, she informed Sakina's mother, "Sakina died from an electric shock caused by the washing machine. Her body is stuck to the machine and refuses to come off." Hearing this, everyone present was filled with horror. Their bodies shivered, and they were left speechless. Everyone began to wonder, how is this even possible? No one could understand what had happened. At that moment, a woman wearing a burqa stepped forward and loudly announced, "It seems that the girl was a sinner. That's why her body is still clinging to the washing machine and won't come off." Her words shook everyone. People began to exchange anxious glances, whispering, "Astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive us," to themselves. Sakina's mother, overwhelmed with grief, cried out, "My daughter was innocent. She was a Hafiza, a girl who memorized the Quran. How can this happen to her? She never committed any sin. There must be some other reason behind this." Sakina's husband supported his mother-in-law, saying, "Yes, my wife may have worked in other people's homes, but she was never immoral. She never did anything wrong that would justify such a punishment." The people gathered began to suspect the house owner. Maybe the owner of the house did something to her. Perhaps she tortured her or hurt her, people started to say. Hearing this, the house owner became nervous. Her voice trembled as she tried to defend herself, saying, "No, I never did anything wrong to her. In fact, I always praised her work and told her how perfect she was at washing clothes. If I had mistreated her, would she have come to my house to work despite her husband's warnings not to work? If I was cruel to her, would she have insisted on working here? No, she always came willingly." Hearing this, people reluctantly agreed that the house owner might be telling the truth. But Sakina's mother was still restless. Her heart was not at ease. Sakina's husband was also devastated, unable to understand how his wife had died in such a way. Several attempts were made to separate Sakina's dead body from the washing machine, but no one succeeded. Her body remained stuck to the machine. As people started asking Sakina's mother if her daughter had committed any sins in her lifetime, Sakina's mother began to think deeply. She went through every memory of Sakina, but could not recall any moment when her daughter had committed a sin. Shaking her head, she said, "No, my daughter never committed any sin that would warrant such a punishment." Everyone was now lost in deep thought. What could be the reason behind all of this, they wondered. Sakina's husband sat with his head in his hands, overcome with grief. A week passed, and Sakina's body was still attached to the washing machine. The foul smell of decomposition had begun to spread. People began to gossip and speculate about Sakina's life. Some people whispered unkind words, while others pitied her grieving mother. Sakina's mother was completely broken. Desperate for a solution, she finally made a difficult decision. She went to her son-in-law and said, "Son, I think this matter is more serious than we realize. We should seek advice from a respected elder or a scholar or Molvi and ask for guidance on what we should do." Her son-in-law agreed, saying, "Yes, you are right, mother. I will call a Molvi right away." The Molvi, religious scholar, was summoned to their home. When he arrived, Sakina's mother narrated the entire story, explaining every detail. The Molvi listened patiently. He expressed his condolences and then asked Sakina's mother, "Did your daughter commit any major sin in her life?" Sakina's mother shook her head. "No, she was innocent. She was a Hafiza of the Quran and lived her life according to Allah's commands. My daughter did not commit any sin." Sakina's husband also supported his mother-in-law, saying, "Yes, she was innocent. She worked in people's homes but never did anything immoral or sinful. We can't understand why her body is still attached to the washing machine." The Molvi, after listening to them, spoke slowly and calmly. Usually this kind of punishment is only given to someone who has committed a grave sin. Sometimes the sin is hidden and no one knows about it. If she died from an electric shock and her body got stuck to the washing machine, then it may be due to something serious that we are unaware of. The room fell silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the Molvi, waiting for his verdict. The Molvi continued, "When a person's body refuses to detach from a place like this, it is often a sign from Allah. It is possible that there is something hidden that we do not know about. We should seek forgiveness from Allah and pray that He reveals the truth." Sakina's mother began sobbing uncontrollably. Her heart could not bear the thought that people were doubting her daughter's innocence. "No, my daughter was not a sinner. She was innocent. I raised her to be pious. She memorized the Quran. She never did anything that would cause her to be punished in this way." The Molvi spoke softly. "Mother, sometimes things are not as they seem. It is not our place to judge. For now, continue to pray for Allah's mercy. Ask Allah for forgiveness and seek His guidance." Everyone in the house bowed their heads in silence. Some people wiped tears from their eyes, while others quietly recited prayers. The foul smell of Sakina's decaying body hung in the air, but her mother's cries were louder than the stench. Her mother sat beside the washing machine, placing her hands on it as if she could feel her daughter's presence. Her tears soaked the fabric of her clothes as she whispered, "Oh Allah, have mercy on my daughter. She was innocent. She was your servant. She memorized your book. Please have mercy on her, my Lord." As the night drew on, everyone sat quietly waiting for a sign, a revelation, or perhaps a miracle. The weight of uncertainty was heavier than the smell of the decomposing body. The story of Sakina and the washing machine had now spread throughout the village. Everyone had their own theories. Some believed she had committed a secret sin, while others believed it was a test from Allah. No one knew the truth, but one thing was certain. Her mother's heart would never be at peace until her daughter was laid to rest. When the Molvi, religious scholar, stated that perhaps Sakina had committed a sin at the place of her death, it was as if the ground had been pulled out from under Sakina's mother and her husband. Both of them glared at the Molvi with anger. Sakina's husband, his voice filled with rage, said, "Molvi Sahib, what are you saying? My wife was a pious woman. She would never commit such an act." The Molvi calmly replied, "Sins come in many forms, son. Sometimes we aren't even aware of them. Perhaps it was an unintentional mistake. Sometimes a person doesn't even realize that they've committed a sin." Sakina's husband firmly replied, "No, my wife did not commit any sin. I can say this with full certainty." The Molvi then turned to Sakina's mother and asked, "You lived with your daughter her entire life. Is there any chance she might have done something wrong? Or maybe since she worked in people's houses, could it be that she took something from them without permission? Even if by mistake?" Sakina's mother responded instantly, "No, my daughter never stole anything. I raised her to be honest. She was not a thief." The Molvi continued, "Maybe you're forgetting something. Think carefully. Did you ever notice her acting strangely or differently than usual? Was there ever a day when she seemed happier than usual?" Sakina's mother sat in deep thought, recalling every moment she had spent with her daughter. But there was no memory of her daughter ever doing anything wrong. She shook her head and said, "No, Molvi Sahib. My daughter was always happy, grateful for everything she had. She was always content with whatever little we had. I never saw her sad or troubled. She never complained and always thanked Allah for everything. My daughter was not like that." Her voice broke as she began sobbing uncontrollably. The Molvi asked one last question. "Can you tell me how much Sakina earned every month?" Proudly, Sakina's mother replied, "My daughter used to earn a lot of money every month. Sometimes she would bring back more money than I expected. I even asked her, 'How do you get so much money?' And she would always smile and reply, 'I take on extra small tasks here and there. Because of that, the house owner gives me a little extra money as a reward.'" The color drained from the Molvi's face. He now had a suspicion. His expression grew serious as he leaned in and asked, "Did you ever ask her which house owner was giving her this extra money? Did you ask where this money was coming from?" Sakina's mother felt a wave of regret wash over her. The house where Sakina died. It was that same house. The house owner there used to take great care of her. She gave her extra money as a reward. The Molvi's eyes widened, and he sat quietly for a moment, lost in thought. His face grew stern. After a pause, he finally said, "I'm going to say something that you all may not agree with, but it must be said. I believe that Sakina committed a sin, and that sin is linked to the washing of clothes. It may be that while washing clothes, she did something wrong. It is possible that this was the reason for her unusual death." These words struck like thunder. Sakina's mother and her husband glanced at each other, their faces filled with confusion and disbelief. The Molvi left the house after giving his thoughts, but his words lingered in the air like a dark cloud. Sakina's mother was now lost in deep thought. Her mind replayed every memory of her daughter bringing money home. She recalled how Sakina would sometimes come home with 50 and 100 rupee notes. Whenever she asked where the money came from, Sakina would reply, "I did some extra small tasks, so the house owner gave me some extra cash." But now everything suddenly made sense. The doubt planted by the Molvi grew in her heart. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she thought, was such a small mistake really worthy of such a harsh punishment? Yes, friends, this was the mistake that Sakina had made. It happened the day Sakina was given the task of washing clothes in that house. As she was washing, she felt something heavy in the pocket of a shirt. Curious, she reached into the pocket and found 300 or 400 rupee notes. At that moment, Sakina's heart wavered. Her faith was tested. Hunger and desperation flashed in her mind. It had only been a month since she started working, and she had not yet received her first salary. The thought crossed her mind. If I keep this money, I can buy food for myself and my mother. We can eat properly for once. Her hands trembled. The battle between right and wrong began in her heart. She thought, no one will know if I take this. They won't even realize it's missing. It's not much. Her hunger and her desire to help her mother overpowered her conscience. She looked around to see if anyone was watching. Then, in a moment of weakness, she took the money and hid it in the corner of her dupatta scarf. At that moment, Sakina had no idea that this small act would become the greatest regret of her life, and ultimately, her death. She justified her action by thinking, it's just a little money. I'm only taking it so I can buy food. It's not theft, is it? From that day onward, Sakina's heart slowly grew accustomed to taking a little extra. Every now and then, she would find change in pockets while washing clothes, and she would secretly keep it. The house owner, unaware of this, continued to praise her for her hard work and honesty. But Sakina had no idea that Allah sees everything, even the smallest actions done in secret. Her heart had been tested, and she had failed. Her small mistake, which she thought would help her family survive, had ultimately led to her unusual death. The day she died, she was washing clothes at the same house. As usual, she put her hand in a pocket and found a few hundred rupees. She looked around, then quickly slipped the money into her dupatta. But this time, as she reached to turn on the washing machine, a sudden jolt of electricity shot through her body. She froze in place, unable to scream or call for help. The washing machine's current was so strong that her body was thrown back against it. The impact pinned her against the machine, and her body became stuck to it. Her hands clung to the machine as if it was her last lifeline. By the time the house owner found her, it was too late. Sakina had died. Her soul had departed, but her body remained attached to the washing machine, a haunting symbol of her final moments. Days passed and no one could separate her body from the machine. It was as if the washing machine was holding on to the secret of her hidden sin. The villagers began to whisper, she must have committed a great sin. That's why her body won't detach from the washing machine. Her mother, broken and heartbroken, could only cry and wonder, was such a small mistake really worthy of such a severe punishment? Sakina's story became a warning for everyone. People began telling it to their children, urging them to never steal, even something as small as a few rupees. Sakina's story became a lesson for everyone. No sin is too small to escape Allah's judgment. This was the first time Sakina had ever done something like this. But after that day, whenever she washed clothes, she would check the pockets of every garment, hoping to find money. Sometimes she would find 50 rupee or 100 rupee notes. Every time she found money, she would secretly tie it into the corner of her dupatta scarf and remain silent so that no one would find out about her actions. This behavior slowly became a habit. She began to feel happy every time she washed clothes because she thought she might find more money. She would work extra hard to clean the clothes properly, hoping the house owner would continue to hire her for the task. At the end of each month, Sakina managed to collect a significant amount of money. In addition to her salary, she would show these extra earnings to her mother. Her mother, thinking it was all from her hard work, would smile with pride. But Sakina forgot something important. This was not her money. This was theft. She convinced herself that it was a small mistake and that no one would notice. Then one day, as she was washing clothes, she reached into the pocket of a shirt and felt something heavy. She pulled it out and saw a crisp 1,000 rupee note. Her heart filled with joy. 1,000 rupees, she thought to herself. Up until that point, she had only ever found 50 or 100 rupee notes. But this was a lot more money. She was so happy that her heart pounded with excitement. Quickly, she folded the note and tied it into the corner of her dupatta. At that moment, she felt as though she had found a hidden treasure. She thought, with this money, I can buy better food for myself and my mother. I can bring her something nice. But fate had something else in store. Just as she was tying the note into her scarf, she touched the washing machine with her wet hand. At that exact moment, an electric current surged through the washing machine. Her body jolted as if lightning had struck her. A loud scream escaped her mouth, but no one heard it. Her body stiffened, and she became stuck to the washing machine. Her hands and body clung to the machine as if it had grabbed hold of her. She tried to pull away, but the powerful electric current was too strong. Her heart stopped. Her body remained pinned to the washing machine. 3 to 4 hours later, the house owner came to check on her. When she entered the laundry area, she was horrified by what she saw. Sakina's lifeless body was still stuck to the washing machine. "Ah!" The house owner's scream echoed through the house. Hearing her scream, everyone in the house came running. They all stood there, frozen in shock, staring at Sakina's lifeless body. People gathered around and tried to separate Sakina from the washing machine, but no one could do it. Her body would not budge. Even the house owner was terrified. "What has happened? How could this happen?" she cried. No one could believe what they were seeing. It seemed as if Sakina's body had become one with the washing machine. Realizing that Sakina had died, the house owner became extremely nervous. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she could hardly think straight. But she knew she had to inform Sakina's family. She sent a neighborhood child to Sakina's house to deliver the bad news. "Go tell them that Sakina has died," she instructed the boy. When the boy delivered the message, Sakina's mother fainted on the spot. Her husband, too, was in shock, unable to believe what had just happened. When Sakina's mother regained consciousness, she saw her house filled with neighbors and relatives. Her eyes searched for her daughter. "Where is my daughter's body?" she screamed. "Why didn't you bring her here? Bring her to me!" Her screams echoed through the house, but no one answered. Everyone glanced at each other, unsure of how to tell her the truth. People muttered, "Astagfirullah, may Allah forgive us," while others exchanged anxious glances. No one had the courage to tell Sakina's mother what had happened. Eventually, the truth was revealed. Sakina's body was still attached to the washing machine, and no one could remove it. The news spread like wildfire throughout the village. People began gossiping. Some said she must have committed a major sin. Otherwise, why would her body be stuck to the machine? The story even reached the Molvi, religious scholar, of the village. When he arrived, he asked Sakina's mother and husband, "Did Sakina ever commit any sin in her life?" Both of them denied it. "No, our daughter was a Hafiza, someone who memorized the Quran. She lived a pious life. She never committed any sin." The Molvi listened quietly, but he had his doubts. He then asked Sakina's mother, "Did you ever notice anything unusual about Sakina's behavior? Did she ever come home with extra money more than she should have earned?" Sakina's mother replied, "Yes, sometimes she would bring home extra money, but she told me it was from doing extra tasks in the house. The house owner would give her the money as a reward." The Molvi's face turned serious. "Which house owner?" he asked. "The same house where Sakina died," her mother replied. A deep silence filled the room. The Molvi was lost in thought for a moment, and then he said, "Sometimes the signs of a person's sin are revealed in mysterious ways. The fact that her body is stuck to the machine may be connected to the work she did while washing clothes." The villagers' hearts filled with fear. Sakina's mother could feel doubt creeping into her heart. Her mind replayed the moments when Sakina would return home with extra 50 or 100 rupee notes. She recalled how Sakina would say, "I got extra money from the house owner because I did some extra tasks." But then her mind recalled one particular day, the day when Sakina had returned home happier than usual. It was the day she had found the 1,000 rupee note. She had told her mother, "I got this money because I did extra work today." Suddenly, Sakina's mother felt her heart sink. Was this it? Was this the sin? She thought to herself. She began to weep uncontrollably. Did such a small mistake cause my daughter to suffer such a painful death? The truth was now clear. Sakina's mistake had been small, but the consequences were enormous. Her mother cried and cried, asking herself, "Why didn't I see it earlier? Why didn't I stop her?" The villagers were now afraid. The Molvi gave a sermon to the entire village, telling them that Sakina's death should serve as a lesson for all of them. No sin is small in the eyes of Allah, he said. If you steal even 1 rupee, it is still theft. Allah is aware of everything, even the smallest actions we think are hidden. The villagers were shaken. People began whispering, "We will never commit such a sin. We will teach our children to never steal anything, no matter how small." Finally, a decision was made. Sakina's body would be buried along with the washing machine. The entire village gathered for her funeral. The Molvi led the prayers, but his heart was heavy. Everyone was silent, overcome with fear and reflection. The people lowered the washing machine, along with Sakina's body, into the grave. Dirt was poured over them. Sakina's story became a lesson for everyone. Her story was told in every household, and mothers told their daughters, "Never take what isn't yours. Even if it seems small, it's still theft. Do not end up like Sakina." Her story serves as a reminder that no sin is too small to be seen by Allah. It is also a lesson about the power of hidden sins and how they can be exposed in the most unexpected ways.